Now, this is actually the story from last night. I think I will play this one from last night because it talks about it. And then the one from tonight, the big story is, they got their numbers wrong, sort of. Not really. They made a printing error, but sort of got their numbers wrong. So we'll play the headlines from when the story came out. I won't play this whole story, and then we'll move on to tonight's story and pull out some ironies about National trying to have a crack with us. So here is the announcement from yesterday.
Good evening. GST on fruit and veggies will be a goner if Labor is re-elected. Chris Hipkins has officially unveiled his not-so-secret weapon, which he says will cut $5 off the average weekly shop. The cost of living carrot comes with changes to working for families and the in-work tax credit, which Labor says will see 175,000 families $47 a week better off by 2026. Political editor Jenna Lynch has more.
The hometown hero Chris Hipkins happy to be here in the Hut.
It is fantastic to be with you here in the mighty Hutt Valley today with just 62 days to go.
Not long to butter up the public in this winter of discontent.
I can't control the weather, but I can do something about food prices.
Hutt Valley better work on their audio quality just between you and me.
Selecting another staple to add to his bread and butter agenda.
Today I'm announcing that if re-elected, Labor will remove GST from fresh and frozen fruit and veggies from the 1st of April next year.
Reaching down the back of the old deep freeze, reheating Labor's 2011 pledge of tax-free fruit and veg.
Are you out of fresh ideas?
No.
Cue the shopping list of questions.
And why not canned fruit and veg?
The distinction that we've made is the difference between unprocessed and processed.
It's actually, we've talked about this, about where will the lines be. It's actually really clear. And like, I think some of the media, certainly the opposition, are trying to find out like holes in the situation, but it's actually really clear being about processed food. And he explains it really easily. Have a listen.
Unprocessed and processed.
What about coleslaw?
That has value added to it, so it has extra ingredients added into it, so it won't be covered.
So a bag of coleslaw in the salad aisle?
If it has mayonnaise added into it, then it
Easy.
won't be covered.
Why not meat?
This is what's affordable.
The policy previously described as a boondoggle by his finance minister, he's come round.
I had two main concerns. The first of those was, would this get passed on? And you would have seen in the announcement today that we're talking about the Grocery Commissioner having that role.
He's not the only one that hated it.
The big winners and the big recipients of this policy are going to be the supermarket owners, not New Zealand families. And
So what Luxon's saying to all you supermarket owners is you're dishonest. That's what Luxon's saying. The party of business and the party that wants to support small business is saying, supermarket owners, we don't trust you. You are dishonest. You're going to keep the profits. That's what Luxon's actively saying.
And we think the better approach is to cut out the middleman, to give people genuine tax relief straight into their...
So you're going to vote for the Greens. Right, let's get on to tonight's story. You got the general gist. I actually think it was I was always wondering how they're going to do it, but value added gets eliminated. So fresh vegetables in a bag with a mayonnaise, value added, it's eliminated. And if it's processed on some level, it gets eliminated. So a tin of fresh fruit or even like a squeezed orange juice. And I think that comes up in the story. It's something's been done to it, it's been processed. I'm pretty unimpressed that the headline on some of these stories is like, is going to end up in court cases or going to end up in legal action. This is David Seymour shit stirring. It might end up in legal action. It's like there's no evidence of that, especially when I think it's so clear.
This is a little tangent, but this is, well, not really. This is David Seymour's thing. Do you remember when they phased out single-use plastic shopping bags? Do you remember what he said about that?
I don't remember what
he said. People were going to die. People were going to get sick and die because we were getting rid of single-use shopping bags.
Really?
Because of hygiene. Yeah, absolutely. Like complete, like way out the gate.
Yeah.
So just keep that in your mind whenever David Seymour decides to divine the future, that the dude is wrong all of the time.
The thing about it is, and no one's saying it's the perfect system. National has to, but it will save people money. And I didn't show it from the last night's story, but they went out onto the streets. It looked like of South Auckland, and pretty much all of the people they were talking to were like fucking choice. This is awesome. Oh. So it was received well by the public. Now I haven't been deriding of it too much, but I have said, you spend $50-$60 on fresh fruit and veggie a week, it's going to save you $6.50. It's not the difference between filling your tank of gas or not, But, you know, I guess for some people, it might be the other way around. It might be the difference between buying fresh fruit and veg and not buying frozen. Maybe. And there's always better nutrients in the fresh than there is in the frozen, mostly.
I mean, I just think if you're going to deliver relief to people, that there's more efficient ways of doing it. You know, yeah, sure, Grocery Commissioner might protect this carve out. It might not be as, you know, admin intensive to maintain it, but like it just seems real lackluster to me. I think it is a political move, and look, it is well received. They did the research. People really, really liked it. That's why they picked it. It's a decision by a focus group. I think wish they did something braver. But at the same time, if it plays, then, you know,
good for them. I think that, you know how I kind of think as I speak. I think what I just said. Why aren't the mainstream media asking Luxon that? So, Mr. Luxon, what you're saying is that the business owners, the supermarkets, can't be trusted. They're going to act nefariously. That's what you're saying, Mr. Luxon. You're saying the business owners, the people who own the supermarkets and run the supermarkets, they're going to keep the profits for themselves unethically rather than pass it on. You think that the business owners are unethical. That's what you're saying, Mr. Luxon. Because how else could you interpret it?
He quite often does this, though. Like, I saw comments on Nicola Willis's Twitter page today, sort of going, you know, it's not even going to pass on that much to thing, and the supermarket duopoly is just going to swallow that up. And I sort of jumped on that, and I was like, Nicola, so you identify that the supermarket duopoly is a problem. So what is National going to do about it? And
reminds me,
I have to say at this point, I have been left on red.
I'm just writing down News Hub Nation. Luxon. Pardon me. Speaking of COVID, there was a expert on News Hub Nation over the weekend, which I'm not showing you tonight because we've got plenty of other stuff, who was saying when you listen to Mr. Luxon speak, what he does is doesn't answer the question, and he says quite a lot. What I meant by that was, and then he doesn't tell you what he meant. He says, what I mean is, and then he doesn't tell you what he means. Excuse me while I cough. It's my asthma. My asthma's playing up. All right, anyway, let's have a look at the story from tonight, because this is where apparently National thinks they've got a massive win here, because, you know, these stupid Labor guys having a printing error.
Criticism is growing around Labor's proposal to scrap GST on fruit and vegetables, with some claiming it could lead to legal action. Chris Hipkins is also...
Okay. Some claiming it could lead to legal action. Some is David Seymour.
Admitted the public's been given a bum steer about the true cost of the policy. Here's senior political reporter Benedict Collins.
Oranges could soon be GST free if Labor wins the election.
I think it's a great idea. That will reduce our overall living expenses significantly.
But once you put them through here and turn them into fresh OJ, well, that juice won't be GST free.
Yeah, I would love to see that happen into my product as well, because customer doesn't have to spend as much as they should.
Freshly squeezed orange juice isn't included. Why is that?
Because it's a processed food, and the debate about what's processed and what isn't could get messy.
Of course, I acknowledge there are always going to be questions about something that sits at the margin.
Even over the definition of the word processed, there will be court cases.
Meanwhile, National's feasting on a Labor...
Did you get that? Some people say that was the some people.
Just
that was the
I'm glad he's not a person, not prominent, potential deputy leader. David
Mistake.
Good afternoon. Look, for obvious reasons, I'm a little reluctant to talk about holes in the same sentence as Grant Robertson.
Funny how she makes a joke about she's a little unkeen to talk about holes. I don't think it's because of that. I think it's because of the $2.8 billion hole they had. That's the reason I think that they're little, reticent about talking about holes. That's my opinion.
But that is what we have here.
Labor handed out this fact sheet yesterday. It didn't take into account their policy would actually come into effect next April.
That contained an amateur error that amounted to $250 million.
Do you think it's a bit ironic that their fact sheet was wrong?
With Labor, I'm not surprised. They struggle with the facts, they struggle with delivery, they struggle with detail.
I'd like to see the...
Okay, they struggle with facts, delivery and detail from the party that's given us basically no detail about most of their policies, which the Prime Minister is about to say. And as I'm going to show you shortly, have a nearly $3 billion gap hole in one of their policies that they released the other day. The other thing is the difference between, let's just even say it wasn't $3 billion. Let's say that they had a $250 million gap. So it was like for like. Labor's policy, it's a printing error. So they haven't committed to that money. It's not like this is what it's going to cost. It's they got their dates wrong, right? So there's no money actually difference there. Nationals, the whole, and their roading policy is actually upwards of $3 billion that they haven't accounted for. So Labor has said it's going to cost this much. Oh no, if it starts from this month, it'll cost this much. So therefore, there's no loss of money. It's just an error with their dates. Not okay, but that's all. Whereas Nationals is actually a hole in their budget where the money needs to come from.
Yeah, and for malicious reasons too, because they're using figures that are years out of date, and they're using the most conservative interpretation of costs and that sort of thing. They are deliberately doing this, as opposed to, as you said, a printing error that was corrected the next day.
Yeah. So. Again, not to beat up too much on the mainstream media, beat them up because we can. Who asked her that? Who said, hang on, you know how you're pointing out their printing error that makes it look like there's $250 million? How do you guys sit on your $3 billion? Like, where's the... That's when they said, like, the irony is, not that you made a joke about his hole. The irony is you've got a hole in yours, which is, what is that? 4 times 3, 12 times the size, 11 times the size. So your hole is 11 times bigger than Grant Robertson's hole.
The facts and the detail of the National Party's tax plans, which they still continue to refuse to release. Yes, there was a typo on one of the fact sheets that was sent out.
The point of the GST-free policy is to ease the cost of living and encourage healthy diets. Some say Labor would have been better off boosting the Food in Schools program.
This is the right intention and in the right direction, but for $500 million a year, I think we could get much better health equity outcomes.
It would be wonderful if it made people eat more fresh fruit and veggies. The truth is, you'll save more with your customer loyalty card than this Labor policy.
Well, you won't actually, because the customer loyalty card will still be there and still give you those discounts, and there'll be no GST. And you know notice how he says it? It would be great if it caused people to eat more healthy. So what he's saying is it's not going to. How the fuck do you know? Like, hello? What? So how do you know? So let's trial this for a year. It's like Chewy, when the NBA brought in the 3-point line, they trialled it for 1 season to see how it would go, and it stayed. Let's trial this for a year, see if it looks like there's more uptake of fresh fruit and veggie, and then make that comment, Mr. Seymour, rather than standing out here making the comment immediately that it's not going to work. How the fuck do you know?
Labor's new policy facing a tough squeeze. Benedict Collins, One News.
Oh, we love puns, don't we, Chewy? So there you go. So the idea is out. People already know here that we're pretty, I guess I would say I'm pretty ambivalent to the whole thing. You know, you might save $6 to $10 a week with fresh fruit. It's not going to be a massive difference. This is what National Party's finance spokesman Nicola Willis claims, that there is a $250 million error. So notice the word error. So in other words, they made a mistake in their presentation. It's not a $250 million hole or budgetary blowout or gap in the policy. It's an error in the Labor tax policy to scrap goods and services tax from fresh and frozen fruit and vegetables. Labor sees their policy to remove GST from fruit and vegetables will take effect from 1st of April 2023, but this is not reflected in their costing of this policy. So it'll be starting from then, not starting from right now. Now, just to show people what I've been talking about, the irony, of course, let's say it is an error. Let's say it's a gap in their policy. Let's say it's going to cost an extra $250 million that they haven't budgeted for. Hi, Labor is actually believing about National now that it's found at least a $2.8 billion hole in National's massive transport package, and it's calling on the party to explain. It's bigger, isn't it?
It's a much bigger number.
That was your cue to talk while I was coughing. I don't know why I'm coughing.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, what are you doing? And if I had a soundboard, I would have put in some sort of animal noise. It's probably best that I don't have that power.
So anyway, it's a bit of a meh policy, I think. As you say, Chewy, always say, can't they be bolder? But I guess the opposition is always going to complain about something that's going to save people money and be received well. Their criticism their criticism is fair because it was an error, but it's not fair in the idea that their error was 10 times the size and theirs is actually budgetary, whereas Labor's is just a printing error. I don't know. It's a C+ to me, this policy.
I mean, it's boring.
Yeah.
I think there's better things I could have done with the money. I have concerns about whether those cost savings will actually get passed on to people, that will all come out of the wash. I don't think it's necessarily a bad policy. It is objectively going to be better for anybody that buys fresh fruit and vegetables, which is most people, hopefully. It's just, yeah. I don't know. It doesn't blow my hair back.
No, 100%. But I mean, yeah. It's some money being saved. It's not a lot of money being saved. I do wonder as well, like we're looking at the guy who's doing fresh fruit juices, right? So his is processed, so there's GST on that. But when he buys it from the supermarket, there'll be no GST on that. So in his ledger book, for those of you guys who do accounts, like I use Xero, you can purchase something and you have a little drop-down box and it says no GST included in this. And then when you sell it, it'll be GST included. But it doesn't make any difference to a business because then they won't have to pay the GST back on the one with no GST, and they will have to pay the GST back on the one with GST. But it's a little bit more accounting. I mean, that's probably part of the cost they're talking about implementing this sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It seems all meh to me. It seems that National needs to find a hole in it. Pardon the pun, but needs to find an error problem with it, and they sort of have found an embarrassment that they got the printing wrong.
That's actually. I saw a National billboard on the way up as I came home, and I think it's their new slogan: "Any hole's a goal." so
yeah, I'm a bit blah about the whole thing. To be perfectly honest, it is what it is.
I mean, you compare, like this is. It's one of those things. It was going to be Labor's big announcement, right? And we all kind of knew it was coming anyway because it had been leaked and National were talking about it, and so it had like basically the soft launch where everyone went, "Oh yeah, that sounds pretty good." The public seemed to really like it. But I turn that around and I contrast that again with the Greens.
Yeah.
With what they're saying, and it's exciting and it's transformative and it will benefit more people in a greater way. And I'm just saying it now. I'm not even being shy about it. It's just like if you make less than $170,000 a year,
vote
if
green.
you want a tax cut, if you want people that are worse off from you to get something out of it as well, if you want kids to be better off, if you want health outcomes to be better, if you want your teeth looked after, all of these sort of things, it's just better. And they just announced the thing that I was talking about last week. Interest-free loans and subsidies for green energy production at home.
Yeah.
So your solar panels, your double glazing, all of these sort of things, just basically really supercharging healthy homes. Again, long-term benefits.
Yeah. No, very good.
So,
FreeSol also FreeSol echoes something that we said when this story got leaked. We said on that night, maybe because they've put the grocery commissioner in now, they'll do that then to keep an eye on it, which is what FreeSol is saying. Paul points out what exactly it would be. $8 pumpkin would be $6.80. I mean, that feels significant, doesn't it? When you look at it like that, Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's not bad. I don't think they've shit the bed. It's just not exciting.
There's a good joke. Labor showing support for Greens.
Oh, boo! Boo, that's
that
your
one?
warning, Guru.
Guru also thinks there's a huge win for vegetarians, which is true. If you're a vegetarian, mate, your budget for your shopping's just gone exponentially. It's great.